Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Comedian MTG. I am your host, Ian. Today, we're doing another gameplay breakdown. For those who haven't seen this series before, what we do is we will take a look at some featured cEDH gameplay. We will analyze that gameplay and try to use it as a learning tool to allow us to become better players. Now, to be clear, this is not a criticism or a negative reflection on any of the players. Whenever I mentioned that plays could be more optimal or things like that, it's always meant to be a teaching tool, learning from games and learning from the examples of how these games play out. This one's a super awesome game. We are, for the first time, looking over at Moderately Anonymous MTG. Dan runs this channel, and Dan is an amazing person. I've been on their stream twice now, and just always someone I have amazing, pleasant interactions with. So I'm glad to finally be able to feature the Moderately Anonymous channel here on Comedian MTG. And it's a super cool game. We have Dylan from Play to Win, we have Kai from Fervent Alchemist, and Shauna from the Command Zone. So a super awesome cast of people, and I'm super excited to watch this gameplay and break down some of the plays, some of the things we could find optimizations in, and go from there. If you like videos like this, make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave comments down below. Is there any other gameplays you guys want to see me do these reviews for? Link them down below, and they don't even have to be cEDH channels. If you want me, for example, to take a look at a casual channel and something like that, just leave that down in the comments down below too. And if you're feeling super generous, check out our channel at patreon.com/comedianmtg. Any support on there helps a ton. Without any further ado, let's get into the game.
We've got an awesome crew today. I'm joined by our guests from last week. We've got Shauna, video editor for the Command Zone, along with Dylan from Play to Win, and Kai, aka Fervent Alchemist. Find links to all of their works in the video description below.
Super excited for this crew.
First up is Kai playing a Mareth deck he calls Naya Zoo. This is a mid-range combo deck that uses light stats pieces to hold down the board.
Kai was using this deck in the MLC, and he's actually had a really solid record playing it. So
sets up infinite mana combos to feed through Mareth and kill the table. Second is Dylan playing the Krark and Sakashima deck, Siskel and Ebert by Ken Bauman. This is a proactive combo deck using its commanders as a storm engine to set up different deterministic and non-deterministic combos.
Now, obviously, going into any pod with the Siskel and Ebert list is going to put you in a really strong position.
Third up, we've got Shauna with Tim Necrom Blue Farm. This is
another one of Shauna's MLC decks, because Shauna actually ended up taking over the place of a different player in the MLC this season. So it's cool to see her getting the reps in with the deck here in this channel.
Range ad nauseam deck using its commanders as grinding engines to set up combo
Very strong deck in the format.
And last in turn order is Mod playing a new brew I worked on with friend of the channel, Moloch. This is Ikra and Krark,
This deck looks absolutely wild. Just like kind of going over this list, just because Krark in the Jund colors is just such a weird engine, but it's got cool stuff like Tavern Scoundrel and things like that to just sort of pop off. The deck really doesn't get to do its thing, especially tough when you see that there's a Krark Sakashima deck, which is like the more streamlined version of what Mod's deck's trying to do here. So it's tough to see that, but it's such a unique list, and I really wish it had gotten to pop off a little bit more in this game than I think it does. It's been a while since I've watched this. So.
It's a proactive storm deck using Krark to double our tutors to
allow
for
cool to see Mod playing
attempts.
some very intense spice.
And without further ado, let's hop into the game.
I don't think losing to Dylan on turn 2 is good practice for this deck.
Probably not. Although an important lesson.
All right, so Kai is going first here with the Ancient Tomb into Avacyn's Pilgrim after an Arcane Signet. Super solid start from this list. Also having a Deafening Silence in hand to be able to slow down basically all three of the opposing decks is pretty strong. Dylan's hand is absolutely cracked because he's going second. He's able to get a Gemstone Caverns now, exile one of these lands in hand, and either to play in the Mana Vault or to be able to get a turn 1 Krark into a turn 2 Sakashima confirmed, or into a turn 2 Stormkiln Artist confirmed. That's kind of insane. This hand pops off. If anything, with the Gemstones, I'm actually a little tempted to get rid of the Archmage Emeritus, because the way the hands work, the card's very, very good in this hand, but the way the curve is kind of working, you want to either be playing the Stormkiln or Sakashima on the 4, and too many 4-drops in this hand is just going to make it glutted up. So my inclination is to exile the Archmage to the Gemstone Caverns, and that way you have your lands, so that by turn 3, I think you can pop off with your commanders, or you can try and, if you're Dylan, you also can just turn 1 Stormkiln, which, I mean, super solid argument for going that route, because you can get the Gemstone, play a land, play the Mana Vault, tap all 4 mana to the Stormkiln Artist. That's probably the move if I was in Dylan's position. Shauna's position here is pretty rough 7. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know that I would keep that hand with this deck, just because you're not really doing anything. Can't really even cast a Timno or a Crom pretty early on. Brain Freeze is basically a dead card in your opening hand. Diabolic Intent without another creature is basically a dead card in your opening hand. Cabal Ritual doesn't ramp you into anything, and Dispel is just kind of whatever. So I would not be tempted to keep the hand like that. On Mod's side, we see the potential for a turn 1 Krark with the ability to go Badlands, the Lotus Petal, crack into a Soul Ring, and then play Krark out, or a turn 1 Tavern Scoundrel. Either way, turn 2, you can start casting spells and accruing some treasures while you're doing that. So everyone's definitely doing things. Obviously, the fact that a Deafening Silence could come down from Kai at any point definitely throws a wrench in that plan a little bit.
They need after.
All right.
If it has
Pre-game. This deck is lucky. Ken, you're onto something.
Correct.
Of course,
when
the
you guys
cameo
are.
from Ken.
I'm also ready for games.
I have a pre-game.
Yep.
Yeah, here
I
comes
have
the Gemstone
Misty-
Caverns we talked
or
about.
I have Gemstone Caverns with not a Misty in my hand. What? I have Gemstone Caverns and I'll pitch Shivan Reef to the
So
cavern.
we see Dylan here go for the play that I was a little more hesitant on, which is to get rid of one of the other lands. Super defendable choice. I just know that I would want to be able to curve my turns into each other, and for me, getting rid of one of the gluttony of 4 drops in hand would be something I'd be more inclined to do.
I don't know why you think it's okay to cheat in a casual stream. But
Wow, just on the stream.
I didn't cheat. I didn't cheat. I just.
Love Shadow coming in with the no chill.
Take 2 big damages. Play an Arcane Signet.
Mm-hmm.
And then a Deafening Silence.
So very interested to see Kai lead with the Deafening Silence. The way my mind usually goes with these things is that you want to develop the mana a little earlier, and that way next turn you can play Deafening Silence and have another spell for turn. Right now, the Avacyn's Pilgrim will be coming down next turn, still summoning Sick, if you want to get more mana onto the battlefield. Now, if you're afraid that your opponents are going to just do some really degenerate stuff turn 1, then that's something else entirely, but it's not a hard rule of law. So, for example, the play we talked about with Dylan earlier, where he can go Mana Vault into a Stormkiln Artist, is still totally online, right? The Mod's play of being able to go Lotus Petal into Soul Ring, obviously that gets shut off by the turn 1 Deafening. So there are definitely scenarios that I would get punished for playing my sort of slower mentality here going into the Avacyn's Pilgrim, but I also think there are scenarios in which you fall farther and farther behind if you don't play the Mana Dork out in this turn, as opposed to the Deafening Silence. So it's interesting to see.
You friggin' jerk.
Of course, that hits Dan pretty hard.
It has to be done.
Disagree.
Yeah. Good for my turn.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Misty. Crack Misty.
Kind of in the middle there.
39. Volcanic Island. And I'll cast the Meatball.
So I changed the views right about here so that we can get the full image of the board. I realized I was cutting a bit of Shauna's board off. We're going to continue from now, though.
good.
That's it.
Good.
Turn.
Yeah, so I'm definitely very interested to see the fact that Dylan chose to not do the Mana Vault play like we talked about, get that Stormkiln out early, and not even to play the Mana Vault whatsoever. So definitely interested to see the lead with Krark here. I assume the draw for turn might have something to do with this deciding to go for this particular line of play, but it's not one that I would be inclined towards in general.
Spire of Industry, Lotus Petal,
Mm-hmm.
pass turn.
Well,
So as we
untap-
see here, Shauna's hand is kind of looking to play out the exact same way that we predicted when we were looking at the mulligan. It's not really doing much. The Diabolic in hand, Brain Freeze in hand, none of that's really going to help in this particular circumstance, so it's a little tough.
keep and draw. Badlands is going to be my land for turn. And I'll cast the Soul Ring.
Yeah, Soul Ring seems like the
And then I
move
will
here,
pass.
especially if you're limited to one of
Alright,
those
that's
artifacts.
it.
Like it
Draw a
seems
magic
like the one
card.
you want to get out gives you the most mana
Play
overall.
a
So-
Avacyn's Pilgrim.
And here's what we talked about beforehand, where the Avacyn's Pilgrim is now not providing mana going into these turns. The only thing you really stopped going into these turns was the Soul Ring untap with land untap on Dan's side. But once again, this is all with perfect information. Deciding to go for that play, it's tough because there are definitely very insane early starts that you stop by just going Deafening Silence on the play. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Take 2 more damage. I'm almost dead. Play a Hopigear for my non-creature spell. I'll cast a Lion's Eye Diamond. Then I'll just pass.
So I think the LEDs in this deck, because I believe it's an Auriok Salvager's deck, unless I'm very gravely mistaken, So that's pretty interesting. And then Hope, I actually don't see Hope in a lot of Staxier lists, which this list it's sort of like a creature combo Stax-ish deck. Although now that I'm bringing up the Oriox Salvagers, I think it is in the deck, but having that with Rule of Laws like Deafening Silence is kind of interesting. The deck definitely has a decent amount of anti-synergy if that's the case, because you don't really see Lion's Eye Diamond and cards that like want to combo with Lion's Eye Diamond and Deafening Silence in the same realm a lot, unless I'm totally missing a combo here.
Untap. Upkeep. Draw card. So I have my 1 non-creature for the turn, which is Mana Vault. Cast Sakashima.
Oh.
Definitely interesting to
Kirk.
see going for Sakashima here when there's no free spells to cast. Can't really get any advantage out of this pair right now, whereas the Stormkiln is waiting and then could get you the mana to go get your Sakashima, whereas the opposite isn't true, right? Sakashima being out, being a second Krark, isn't getting you more mana to get your Stormkiln out.
Gasp.
That's it, faster. I should attack, I guess. Should I attack? Yeah. Mod, I'll come at you.
Yeah,
with
always attack.
Now,
Always
Shauna?
attack.
I guess should it be Sean?
I'm actually not on Ad Nauseam in this deck, but I am on
You're
Bolas
on
Citadel.
both the Citadel. I'm still attacking you, Mod.
So yeah, definitely there's always that interesting table conversation of I'm not on Adnaz, but Mod being on Citadel sort of throws off that argument a little bit. Interested to see why that deck is on Naz, or not on Naz, but is on Citadel. Obviously Krark bouncing your own Ad Nauseam back to your hand feels pretty bad. I would assume they are also are not on Pier, but it's hard to say. I don't have the deck list memorized.
It's your stream.
That makes sense to me.
Little love.
But
there.
Shauna's deck is better.
That might be true.
Hey,
I'll get
listen.
Sean next time.
It is, trust me. Mine is Krark in the command zone.
Kirk's really good. What do you mean?
He has 2 of them.
Yeah, that's the cheating part. You got
Having
two
two
of them.
Krarks makes Krark a lot
That's
better for sure.
Cool. Draw. Luxury Suite. 2 for an Arcane Signet. Pass the turn.
Definitely a lot of just fair stuff happening over Shauna's side. Next turn with the land drop, Crom can come out, and that'll definitely be a little awkward with Deafening Silence, but you can assume that there's enough creatures in the pod that maybe something will happen there. But yeah, that slow start is really just being evident, especially going third. It's just having a slow start like this maybe on the play is definitely a little more understandable. At least luckily for Shauna, that stacks piece came out of Kai to slow down the rest of the table, so she isn't lagging as hard as she could be behind a less stacksy deck.
Tap, upkeep, draw. Let's play Undergrowth Stadium as my land for turn. And then I'll cast a meatball.
Sure.
Kilker.
And
I actually have no
that's
idea
not
how the
even-
meatball
that's not
nickname
even a
came about,
non-creature,
but
though.
it is
Whoa,
endearing
hold on.
for sure.
Wait a minute. All right. In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's cast a Lotus Petal. I'll sacrifice the petal for red, and unbelievably, I'm going to cast a second creature spell. I'm going to cast a Tavern Scoundrel.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Developing your engines.
You got it.
I'll pass.
I love seeing the thought process of the players there. Like that Mod took the time to go, okay, wait a minute, here, this is the stacks piece I'm under, but wait, let's just double check I know exactly what that restriction is. And because they took an extra second to like think about their thought process there and think about the stacks pieces on the battlefield, they were able to make a more optimal play, which is to advance their board state even more. I talk about this a lot when I'm talking with Charles, mono white guy, and a lot of times, just the basics of like double checking what stacks are on the battlefield, double checking your understanding of those pieces, and the fact that you know their full text is super important when you're going up against stacks pieces. Double checking that you know the stacks pieces on the battlefield and exactly what they do and exactly what their limitations are, right? It's very easy for people to say, oh, Deafening Silence, it's a rule of law. But it's not. It's not a full rule of law. It allows you to play multiple spells if they're creatures. And it allows you to play a creature and another non-creature spell, right? So that's a huge difference from a traditional, actual, factual rule of law.
Oh, wait. I had one floating in the pool because of this Soul Ring, so I'm going to keep this Undergrowth Stadium untapped.
Okie doke. Alright, on tap. Draw a magic card. I'll pay 3, take 2 more damage. I'll play Birthing Pod.
Oh,
Now, we know that was not in Kai's opener, but man, that is a scary card. It was the reason, Dawn Waker went through a shift a little while ago, and I was just playing Birthing Pod lines in that list because the ability for that card to just be like, here's my one card. I will win the game with this single card. I mean, I've built entire decks around Birthing Pod, even in cEDH. The card is very, very strong, and it's also exceedingly strong underneath the rule of law, because you don't really cast anything apart from Birthing Pod itself. You usually can win the game just through the activations of Birthing Pod. So Birthing Pod coming down here, in addition to the fact that Kai has an active silence on the battlefield and a deafening silence stopping his opponents, very solid positioning. Very, very solid.
Fuck.
Alarming.
Dan having the appropriate reaction here.
Yeah, I passed priority. Let me. Yeah, are we dead? Hold on. No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, you're not dead
be
yet.
bad.
You usually
though.
do
It's
need
gonna
more
be like
mana,
Transmax
though.
or something.
It's gonna be, yeah.
So hypothetically speaking, if Kai had a larger creature on the battlefield, say a 2-drop, or no, I guess with this deck, because it's in green, white, and red, the line to go for is 3-drop into Felidar Guardian, Flicker Pod, get get Karmic Guide, bring back Felidar Guardian, sack Guardian, get Kiki to the copy, get the Guardian. So you need a 3-drop to start that whole process. So for this pod combo to work right now, Birthing Pod not only needs the mana, which the LED provides for, which is why I started bringing this up in the first place, but you would also need a 3-drop creature to be able to make it pop off. Which Marath happens to be, worth noting.
If he pods into Collector Oof, that's fine, I guess.
I go ahead and force all that. Exiling this spell.
You got me.
Solid target Forcible. Definitely a solid Forcible target. Birthing Pod is terrifying.
Excellent. Very well played, everyone. Good game.
Good game.
So I know Dan's sort of memeing at the current moment, but it is fantastic for both Dylan and Dan to see your opponent's win condition be countered, right? And for your opponent, on the other hand, to have 2-for-1 to themselves to answer this threat, right? So Dan's being a bit of a meme lord at this current moment, but it shows and displays this moment how much of an advantage it is for the two players who were not a part of that interaction, right? The one who didn't have their threat countered, the one who didn't spend 2 spells interacting with that threat.
I'll be a green and I'll cast a Birds of Paradise, and then I'll pass.
Untap. Upkeep.
Going back to that point, it's one of the tough parts of playing cEDH, because, you know, it's a matter of, do I play a ton of interaction and interact with everything my opponents are doing, but then don't have the advantage because I'm using all my interaction and I'm using all my cards to interact? Or do you go full greed, but then find scenarios where a single counterspell would have saved you, but you don't have enough of them? It's a tough balance, and that's what deck builders have kind of been struggling with over the past few years. There was a sort of a push towards insanely uninteractive when, you know, Turbonaws first started getting this like hype around it, and now I think the format's balanced out a lot more, which is why you're seeing more mid-range decks in general.
Metavolt. Lose 1. And draw card. Cast Brainstorm. Trigger.
So in this scenario in which you have Stormkill now instead of Sakashima here, you can see how this scenario really starts to kind of pay off more, right? You see these scenarios where this Brainstorm, whether or not it actually resolves, is granting you a treasure. And if it resolves, the copy is giving you more treasure. And if not, the cast gives you 1 treasure and allows you to just do this over and over again. So basically it creates inevitability with this 1-drop spell that says, I'm going to keep casting this and also increasing my storm until I get a copy, as opposed to a negative flip to return to hand. But now instead we're just getting 2 copies of Brainstorm and probably a return to hand.
First one.
For those who don't play against Kark Sakashima a lot, the reason this deck is so scary is when you start incorporating things like free spells, because at that scenario, you are basically creating these engines where you can just interact with what your opponents are doing on a near infinite basis if the flips don't go too poorly against your opponents. So, you know, the engine going right here, you can see Dylan starting to accrue resources, and I've mentioned things about the sequencing, but this is the scary part about this deck, is that when these flips start going your way, and, you know, when you get this engine online, it's really more of an engine deck than it is like a gambling deck. But when the engine gets online, it becomes very, very potent, very, very quick, and very hard to interact with.
Evens. I didn't say evens or odds copy.
I
Odds
know.
copy, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's what
We know.
everyone else does. Sorry.
It's established. We're
Yeah.
established.
Copy Brainstorm.
Yes. Goodbye, man.
2. And second card trigger.
Yep.
Odds is back to hand. Evens is copy again. Copy Brainstorm again.
So now we're
got it.
seeing multiple
Put back
copies of
these
Brainstorm.
two, and then the original Brainstorm on the stack.
Yes.
I will draw 3 once more. And I didn't find the land.
Oh, yeah.
So the way that works is there's the original spell. There's Croc Trigger number 1, Croc Trigger number 2. Croc number 1 says, do I copy? Do I put back to hand? Number 2 says, do I copy? Do I put back to hand? Then there's the original spell. It gets very complicated, and anytime you're playing against Croc Sakashima, it does get a little complicated on interaction points. Luckily, it's a brainstorm right now, so it's not an interaction point. But I figure while the intensity of the game's a little lowered, we can talk about where the interacting points are very necessary against this deck. Now, if you're fighting a counterspell war and you're worried about your opponents just infinitely recurring the spells, you can actually hit the base spell before either of the Croc Sakashima triggers have resolved, and that will just counter it outright. Now, there are scenarios in which, unfortunately, that doesn't matter because they win a flip and get copies to hit your stuff. But in general, if you want to stop them from sort of chaining stuff infinitely, you hit it without the when the Croc Sakashima triggers are both on the stack, and that'll help you really start to manage the stack with these commanders. It's not intuitive or easy to understand whatsoever, and it's the play patterns this deck creates often make you play in ways that in most other scenarios would be suboptimal, but that's just sort of how the deck works. And there's a reason there when people were first like not understanding it correctly, it had this like slew of wins, and it's because it's very hard to get.
Yeah, thank God it was 3 brainstorms and not 3 ponders. Jesus.
Yeah.
These 2 back. 1, 2.
Yeah,
3,
3
4,
ponders
5,
is
6,
much
7,
scarier
8,
than
and then
3
I'll have to
brainstorms.
discard. Oh my god.
Probably. Are you moving to your end step, Dylan? Is that? Or
I
your
will.
result?
Yes, we are about to in a moment. Right
Okay.
now, Brainstorm is in the graveyard, and I would like to move to discard now.
I'm gonna try to cycle this Veil of Summer in your end step. Correct trigger. We have got an odd, so it'll go back to hand and no further
Poor Dan.
actionable.
Discard Treasonous Oak.
That is one of the tough parts about playing Sakashima lists. Croc.
Womp womp.
When did Treasonous
Faster
Ogre
one.
become a Croc Sakashima card? That's very interesting.
Upkeep draw.
I mean, it's a very
Fuck,
powerful
I didn't
card.
attack Shauna. Damn it.
Dylan once again punishing himself verbally for forgetting to go to combat. You always really want to grab those lumps when you can, because more and more of the cEDH meta is turning into a combat-based meta. So it's really important to make sure you're capitalizing on every single attack. Now, if your opponents have a Tymna out, you want to leave stuff back for blockers. That's totally understandable. But if you have free attacks, take the free attacks.
My ad nauseum will be so happy. All right, we're gonna tap 3. Cast a Tymna.
Yep.
And now you can't attack me without losing one of your boys. Check it out.
Checking. Yes.
Pass turn.
No, I have a feeling Shauna was just memeing there. But in that scenario, if I'm Croc Sakashima, I feel decent about attacking into a Tymna, because I would not expect someone who hasn't done anything for 2 turns and then develops a Tymna to really be willing to make that trade. And yet, on the other hand, if I'm Dan or Kai, that trade sounds great to me. This is just sort of expanding upon what they were talking about there.
Turn.
All right. Untap, upkeep, and draw. Bloodstained Mire is going to be land for turn. Let's crack the Mire. I'll go to 37, and I'm going to get myself. Probably just get Blood Crypt. I'll go to 35.
Is the fun nickname
Having
for
come in
Bloodstained
untapped.
Mire Bloody Muddy?
Blood Crypt in this Soul Ring, and I'm going to cast a Witchclaw Talisman.
Very scary
No.
card. Even if you're worried about stacks being or Quark being a self-stacked piece,
And
Wishclaw is still
I
terrifying.
will pass the turn from there.
Okie doke. Untap. Draw. Play.
Dan also has the ability to do the cycling of Veil of Summer like we saw in the previous attempt of the rotation of the table.
A Gaia's Cradle. Not alarming. I'll
Guy's doing some scary
Unfortunate.
shit.
I'll tap for 3 green. I guess I'll float a green. I'll cast a Wheel of Fortune. And I'll hold
Yes.
priority.
Now, it's really interesting to me to see a stacks deck like this playing a Wheel of Fortune. And once again, I know it's not hard stacks, but unless I'm playing like Storm or a proactive strategy like Ad Nauseam, I really don't tend to play wheels. So Marath playing wheels here is kind of interesting to me. I'm curious as to why that ended up making the cut over some other options, but LED also kind of has that same sort of head scratch moment for me. Maybe the Deafening Silence is more of a value include and isn't indicative to how the deck is built, and to me that would make more sense as to why we're seeing some of these other options here in the list.
And I'll sack for triple red. Discarding Faithless Looting.
Pretty
Ooh,
good
that's
value
pretty.
on that play.
Thank you.
Pass priority on Wheel of Fortune.
Prosperity.
Yeah, foil, Strixhaven, Japanese alternate art, Faithless Looting. It's pretty art.
I'll respond.
Dan, no.
No, I don't think I'm going to counter it.
Well, you're playing
I would like to
John.
draw more cards. I'm just going to try to cycle this Veil of Summer again.
Yep, as I mentioned.
How? Wait, how?
Oh, I guess I'm not cycling it, but I would make Tavern Scoundrel treasures if it resolves. Veil of Summer Clark, okay.
Yeah, you good.
Yep.
We have got a put back to hands, so nothing happened.
So I like Dan's play here a lot because you're getting a brand new hand. You don't know that you're going to grab any instants that are going to be able to be played during the rotation of the table, and creating a scenario in which you're just netting yourself treasures for the next turn cycle to be able to do something more degenerate, especially when you have Wishclaw Talisman ready to go. I think it's a really cool play and a very heads-up move. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay off here.
Damn.
And then I'm good on Wheel of Fortune.
I have Mog Salvage again, but still, there's no island. Stormkill Artist,
Okay, that's a reference to
Harmonic
the last
Prodigy,
game.
Void Snare, Karksthumb, Archmage Emeritus, and Heat
Thumb's there
Shimmer.
too. So let's see here. If we had, let's talk about if Stormkiln had come down the turn before, because apparently this entire game is going to be me harping on that point. So the tough part is we don't know what Dylan drew off the Brainstorm. But if Harmonic Prodigy or Karksthumb were in that hand, you can see scenarios in which Stormkill comes down, you cast the Brainstorm, it eventually nets you the 2 mana, you have 3 mana remaining. You can do anything as far as like bouncing a bunch of stuff with Void Snare, once again being able to recur the mana until you're able to get a copy of it. That's netting you mana as well. You can play the Harmonic Prodigy, and that basically becomes your Sakashima. So you're seeing a lot of scenarios here in which the mana, once again, is what ends up being the constricting value in this game. And if Stormkilled had been chosen, there's actually a pretty solid chance that Dylan could have won the game last turn, given this hand. So
Oh, boy.
Guys, I don't think Dylan shuffles his hands. I think he just like drops the same one. Dranith, Diabolic Intent, Cabal Ritual, and Brave Freeze.
Tybalt Trickery, Veil of Summer, and a Yawgmoth's Will.
interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I mean, Kai's good at this. He's just slow sometimes.
I think I'll just pass the turn.
Untap. Lose a life from Mana Vault. 37 and draw card. Got a mountain. I got my 1 non-creature spell, which is Arcane Signet. Oh, let's.
So I realized a sentiment about sequencing on the last turn. I'd mentioned how Void Snare could have been cast. Void Snare would have actually had to have been cast first because you would have needed to cast the Void Snare to bounce the Deafening Silence before you did the Brainstorm play that Dylan talked about. I'm aware that that got looked over when I was describing that turn pattern, but recognizing it now, Deafening Silence still is on the battlefield, totally.
Do nothing else. Pass turn.
Cool.
Shows once again one of those scenarios in which stacks pieces on the board. You got to remember each and every one of them, what they do.
What's that? Upkeep, drop. None of these are lands.
John, I'm thinking hard about how we're all going to die right now.
Yeah, honestly.
So someone's going to win on this turn for sure. I don't.
You think so?
I'm not sure.
Like
I think so.
either me or Shauna? Or like this
I
whole,
mean-
like, right now? This whole turn?
Well, you have Mod. You have the Wish Claw and you just drew a fresh 7.
Yeah.
But I'm in
and you're
John. Like, someone could so easily stop me, I think.
I get. Yeah, maybe. But you also are in green, so you can get rid of Deafening Silence really easy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's true.
Yeah, that culling ritual's coming.
Yes,
That would be
you got that card
real
probably.
good right now.
No, I actually just dropped it for Necro.
Unbelievable.
Ain't no
Now, 4
way.
is a lot to put it back.
Even with Krark, that's so tough. I know that like Krark's a big piece with Culling Ritual, and obviously it's really, really bad with Krark on the battlefield, but I have trouble playing a proactive strategy in this format right now and in those colors and not including Culling Ritual. But like I understand the reasoning of a bad flip completely. Time walks you, if not worse, with Krark on the battlefield. But that's so tough not playing Culling Ritual in these colors.
Back in your hand.
We're going to tap an Arcane Signet for a Misty Remora.
Yeah.
Misty Remora? Mystic Remora?
Misty Remora.
I will pass the turn.
Untap,
Remora is definitely
upkeep,
good
and draw.
to keep Shauna in this game.
Play an
For
Arid
sure.
Mesa is my land for turn. And
Although-
I think that
Was there any good attacks? I would send Timna into Kai's board. I highly doubt Kai trades a Hope of Gearper and a Mana Dork for Timna, but maybe Shauna's worried about the backlash of damage.
we're going to sacrifice it. Go get a Taiga. I don't know that I can really make any play here. I'm going to maybe cast Ikra. Yeah, I'm going to
The big
cast
booty
Ikra.
lady herself.
I'll
Ikra
pass
Shadiki.
turn. 7 cards in the end.
Okie doke. Untap. Draw a magic card. Play a mana confluence. Wonder if it's gonna be okay.
I doubt it.
It's so funny because you can tell this is the later game in the evening because these are all like very exciting players and who often are very like very silly people, and you can tell they're also like very deep in thought because of the lines that are available in this game. I would usually expect a little more like back and forth at the table from this grouping.
How many cards does everybody have in hand?
7.
6.
Full grip.
That's problematic.
That's what I said.
You just wield them. What do you expect, guy?
All right, I'm gonna combat. See what happens here. I'll swing the.
So the way Kai is setting this up indicates to me that he intends on going for something here. And I would never want to be going for something in his position, given the current board state, because the first person to go off is usually the first person to lose. That's just kind of how cEDH works a lot of the time. They usually get stopped. Now, there are obviously exceptions to the rule, but time and time again, the first person to go off is never the person that goes off, and it's the second person who has at least some sort of interaction or backup, usually that ends up getting there. So trying to go off into a Mystic Remora with a healthy amount of mana open from Shauna, as well as the stuff Dan's got and Dylan having mana open, it would be concerning to me. Now, if I'm hitting someone with the Hope of Girper in hopes of silencing, it's definitely going to be Shauna, and in hopes that, you know, obviously you're not feeding the fish too much because the fish feeding doesn't lead to interaction, right?
The hope at Shauna.
Yeah, okay,
I'll
so
take
there's
one.
that at least.
All right, cool. Everything's working out.
You're winning.
Second main phase, I will tap for 3 green, colorless, 2, and I will sack the Hope of Gear.
Oh no.
Yeah, see, so this
No,
is
no,
exactly
no,
what
it's
they were
cool.
talking about. We shut down the person with the Remora so they can try and
Dylan gets me.
Okay. There's definitely the mentality there of, hey, you know what? If I got it, I got it.
I pass on that ability for sure.
I might respond to it.
Oh man. So is the result?
Yeah, you're cool. Go for it.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pass
All right.
priority on the ability as well.
Yes.
All right, so somebody's gonna get me. I'm pretty sure of it.
I love that Kai's like, I'm gonna go for it, but like I know I'm not gonna get it because it's Kai's been around the block long enough to know that exact thing I've been talking about here a second ago, which is you don't win going off.
I hope so. God, I hope so. It ain't gonna be me.
Oh, I cast a shared summons.
What the fuck is happening?
Oh no, we're about to die. Is what's about to happen.
That's 2 creatures, yeah.
What a
Yeah.
great
Remora.
reaction. So that is Kai's only non-creature spell for the turn. Worth noting here for any sort of sequencing questions you might have.
You can draw.
Cool.
Shauna's in a great position if Kai doesn't win here because now you're getting all of the cards that Kai, doesn't really care about. Although I think it's limited to 1, obviously, because of the Deafening Silence. So it's a little interesting here. It really depends on how much you expect your opponent to interact after one single Remora draw.
It's like you
I-
can't do shit.
I don't remember how Marath wins. What 2 creatures do you normally get? You don't have to tell me, I guess.
I think it's just Emil
It'd
Dockside.
be Dockside in the Teamer Sabretooth. I think that would win, right?
That sounds like a good one. Do we have enough artifacts and enchantments to make that
Yeah,
go
with
right now?
Marath.
Yeah, we definitely do.
obviously.
Let me think. Give me
There's
one.
a lot. There's 1, 2, 3 on Shauna's side of the board, 1, 2 on Dylan's, and then 1, 2 on Mod. So yeah, there's definitely 7 artifacts for Dockside there.
One moment to think.
I think you just get Dockside. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I pass priority.
And for those who don't know, Marath acts as the infinite mana outlet. You just make infinite mana, play Marath, shoot your opponents with all of the Marath activations, do that over and over again until your opponents are dead.
I'll pass priority on that as well.
All right, all right.
We're good as hell, man.
All right. Let's,
I was skeptical of the turn 1 Deafening
Kai is
Silence guy.
always
I'll let you know,
hilarious.
but if you win this game in less than 30 minutes, I'll be a very happy camper.
Yeah,
all
definitely
right,
last
here's
game of the night.
annual Dockside Extortionist. Here you go. Oh, can't wait to get got.
For those who don't know, Emil allows you to flicker Dockside, and as long as you make more than 3 mana from your Dockside activations, you can infinitely flicker Dockside, make infinite mana, and then channel that into Marath.
Isn't it going to be fun? Oh my god, it's going to be awesome.
I'm definitely
All
interested
right.
to see what.
I'll
what's
start
happening
off
here.
with the, I guess the dockside, and I'll tap like this.
Dockside is good with me.
I don't have to sack the pedal, right? I think he's infinite without it. 1, 2.
So it's interesting to see here one of the scenarios where Kai might actually be fine because of the fact that he's playing creature combos. Obviously, your opponents have way less interactions for creature combos, and so if that's what Kai is going off with here, then he's in a really solid position, right? There's a lot less things that are, at least on the stack, that he has to worry about. Now, when it comes to things like spot removal, like Chain of Vapor, all that stuff, those things are a little more effective. Now, here, it's very interesting to note that if there was some sort of instant sorcery counter that would stop Kai from winning, I assume it would hit the shared summons, to be fair, before, and not rely on not losing to the 2 creatures tutored.
Yeah. Oh.
I think that is the
But
5th one.
But it does make it a lot harder for me.
It makes a
does.
difference, yeah. If you're,
Yeah,
if you're not
I'll
gonna-
sack the pedal. For blue.
I have response to the ETB trigger if we're there. Mod, are you?
I am actually going to respond to the dock side.
Oh no.
I love how scared you are of this Jund deck. Like, what the f am I going to do?
I respect you too much.
I appreciate that. I'm going to use the Tavern Scoundrel to sacrifice.
Hell yeah, it's happening.
No, you're gonna give him more.
Tavern Scoundrel having an activated ability is something that no one remembers, but I love that Dan was just so ready to do that.
He's gonna use the treasures. He's gonna use
Maybe I
treasures. It's
don't
okay.
do that. You raise a good point. Well, no, I mean, no, we're even out on that if I even make them. Yeah, no, we'll do that. Okay, I'm going to activate the Tavern Scoundrel. I'm going to sacrifice
What a
the
gamble.
Taiga, and I'll flip a coin.
What are you
Alright,
calling?
Heads, which is evens, which I did not get, so nothing happens.
Rip.
All right.
Cool.
then
Dockside. I have response to Dockside ETB.
Yes. Oh my god, it's the stifle.
No,
Don't
it's
you
not.
dare.
Oh, I fucking wish it was. No, I'm just gonna try to lightning bolt it with the trigger on the stack. So hopefully before the
So
email
this
comes.
is really good sequencing on Dylan's part. You do it before Kai has the extra mana to protect itself, or to protect the dockside. You do it before Emil comes down, because this is the point where Kai has the least amount of mana to protect it, the least amount of interaction to protect it. It's very, very good sequencing here from Dylan as far as the interaction point.
is in.
Oh, okay.
That hurts.
Now he's gotta do the Kark Sakashima.
Two card triggers.
Can I draw a card?
Yes, you may.
Nice.
Evens will copy. Tails will go back to hand. Tails back to hand. It's a even copy. So the
just
copy
getting
I will
three cards
have
there.
come at dockside.
All right.
Yeah, so Dylan taking the safe choice here, having both copies target dockside just in case there's any sort of shenanigans.
Dockside is exploded.
Bye, little
So the
boy.
ETB obviously will still happen, but Dan.
And then I have no more response.
Okay. How much am I making?
Thanks, Dylan.
2 for me.
So 6.
2 for me as well.
Still a lot of treasure.
Oh, so 6.
Yeah, I still feel very not confident.
Sure, me too.
You are half correct, I guess.
Yeah, are we dead
Uh-oh.
anyway?
Oh
I
yeah.
think so.
God damn it.
Maybe if I didn't do my math correctly, here's an eternal witness.
Just immediately. Dylan doing a great job with the sequencing there. Just immediate punishment. My opponent has just Eternal Witness in hand to just completely invalidate.
Yeah, buddy. I can't cast any more non-creature spells, so that'll be a pass for me.
Yeah, I can't do anything either.
And of course, Shauna's locked down from the Hope of Girper. Yeah, Kai just kind of having it all.
That's for me.
All right, ETB, target dockside.
You got it.
That's so good.
Recast dockside.
Interesting. I'm at 6.
Me too.
Go
Nice.
to 10. Go back down to 6. Cast Emil.
That's hot.
Audible gasp.
It was a solid gasp
Am
for
I
sure.
good to
Actually,
start the
Yes,
swing gun?
you're good to
Yeah,
go.
Totes at 6.
I'm
Wow.
not
Alright.
nothing. I can cast this lightning
Just
bolt
boom.
again. I can't cast a lightning bolt again. That's all I have.
So for anyone just confused again, once again, Emil flickers dockside. Dockside makes more treasures than 3, therefore you can activate Emil again, makes infinite mana. Then Kai will play Marath, which will have, continually more and more counters and continue to shoot opponents down with Marath's ability and take that win. Thanks to Dan who allowed me to use this gameplay for this channel. Check out moderately Anonymous MTG. If you know my channel and don't know theirs, that's kind of crazy because Dan does really great work. And I hope you enjoyed this gameplay review. I hope you can use some of the lessons and some of the sequencing, things like that we talked about in your own gameplay. Thinking about, you know, how my game plan is affected as I go and push further into my game, how, you know, my early game decisions affect my later game choices, stuff like that. So thank you for joining me on this gameplay episode. If you like stuff like this, hit like and subscribe. Make sure to check Dan's channel out. I'll leave the video down below. They make amazing content. Thank you for watching. I hope you had an awesome time with this video. If you enjoy it, make sure to like, make sure to hit subscribe, leave down in the comments any videos you want to see me analyze for this series. And if you're feeling extra generous, check out patreon.com/comedianmtg. Any help there is so helpful for this channel. Thank you so much. Have an amazing week. Peace.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gonna feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving.